Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Tommo, and welcome to my 2024 post-race Chinwag Spanish Grand Prix edition roll intro. Hello everyone, hello Sam, Benjamin, Road Rage, Christopher, Rayner, Just Grace, Jerome, Sam, Francine, Niels, Dimmy, Emma, Tina. Welcome everyone who's here live on YouTube. Welcome to everyone who's watching this after the fact on YouTube as well, as most of you do. And welcome to everyone who's audio only, listening through your little lugs, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that. If that's what you're interested in, you don't have to look at my face. You can get to know, right? You don't have to look at this bright yellow Ferrari hat that I'm wearing. It looks like I'm Bob the Builder today. I'm Bob the Builder. If you don't get that reference, then I wonder if they show Bob the Builder outside the UK. If you're not from the UK, do you know Bob the Builder? Does that ring a bell? No, maybe not. Okay. Hello, Harsh, Rabbi, Shlomi, Naughty, Anthony, Calexander, Peepo, Lucas, Lefloof, Amethyst, Talita, Yordi, T, Sith, Charmander, Tina, Mitchell, Kane. They shout in New Zealand, do they? Oh, there you go. Up the Builder. Of course. It's a household name. Household name is old Bob. Anyway, I digress. Should we talk about the Spanish Grand Prix? Shall we have a little talk about yesterday's festivities? Starting off, chat, of course, as always, please give me some numbers, some race rating numbers out of 10. I'll use the ones you put in the live chat to put a little poll together, and then we'll try and get your race rating for the 2024 Spanish Grand Prix, along with mine. 6, 6, 4, 7, a few 7s, 4s, 5s, 6s. Okay, there's a pretty good range straight away there. So, race rating. So we're going to have 4 options as per, so 4 or lower, 5, a 6, 7 or above. Okay, the poll is live. Let me know, live chat, if you're here, if you're 345 of you concurrent viewers here on YouTube. If you, sometimes I'll try and do these streams. I try and vary the time sometimes, but also it kind of works for me to do it like midday on a Monday. I was thinking about doing it last night as well, but didn't fancy it. So I thought we'd do it today. We'd leave it to today, right? Do it midday. Good European time. Sorry to all my Kiwis and my west coast of the Americans. Right, it's probably not the most comfortable time zone for you lot. Actually, probably worse for East Coast, isn't it? Really. If you're East Coast, you're probably not here. But yes, what are we saying? Race rating out of 10, 5. 5 is bang average, not 7. Everyone says 7. 5 is bang average. Was it better than average? Was it worse than average? Your thoughts. The poll. Ooh, interesting. Okay, so 7% of you giving it a 4 or lower. 20% a 5. 46% a 6. And 27% giving it a 7 or above. So it's pretty much averaging out bang on a 6 actually for your race rating. Now sometimes we agree, sometimes we do not. And on this occasion, which again you can, Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that, we agree. I've also given it a 6 out of 10. For me, it was good. It was a good race. It was not amazing. There were a few battles, a few little scraps, a few little skirmishes. Tight for the lead as well. Obviously, Lando did reel in Max towards the end. 2 seconds the gap by the end. We've had better races. There were a lot of overtakes as well. On paper, it was a pretty good Grand Prix. But it's not one that will live long in the memory. Maybe if we've got a final lap showdown, if Lando had actually caught up to Max, that would have probably bumped it up by at least a point. If he'd caught up to Max. If he'd caught up and overtaken Max for the win right at the end, it's probably getting like an 8 out of 10. He didn't even catch up quite. That would have given us something, because there's always gonna be a bias towards the battle going on at the front. There were some interesting battles throughout the field, but we didn't quite have the battle at the front. There were some good overtakes. It wasn't just some were just DRS passes, but I think where they've changed that final corner now, you're carrying more speed, so DRS is a bit more effective. In some instances, it was just easy DRS overtakes, but not all. We did have some quality battles on track. Some on the edge overtakes as well, which we'll get into. So, you know what? I think it was pretty good. Verstappen was cruising at the end. Look, maybe not. To what extent he was cruising, it's impossible to say. Only he and Red Bull know, and relative to how much Lando was pushing as well. Obviously, Lando had fresher tyres at the end and was reeling Max in about 2 seconds the gap at the end. But Max, you know, to catch up to Max is one thing. To overtake him, Lando would have needed a significant tyre delta, which I think the tyre delta wasn't significant enough. So the chance of actually him overtaking Max for the win was very, very small. But it would have been exciting to see anyway. Was Red Bull the 4th best car? Look, a car only moves when it's got a wheel behind it, okay? The Red Bull is the worst car if no one's driving it. It's the best car if Max is driving it. But maybe not today. Or yesterday, should I say. Maybe not. Oh, there's a spider. The spider's just kind of come down. There's loads of... It's really warm in the UK at the minute. Or Perez. Ouch, Max, that's harsh. There's loads of spider webs in here. And hang on, shall I get the spider? Can you see if you can see the spider? You see the little dot hanging? I'll put it near my face. A little hanging spider, right? Oh, it dropped. I'll try not to tread on it. Whew, it is a bit hot. I can't lie, it's a bit hot, alright? It's a bit hot. Take it out. It's only tiny, it's fine. It's fine. The spider's fine. It's just walking away now on the floor. It's all good. It's all good. Right, so that's my race rating 6 out of 10. And pretty much we agree, which is unusual. So how'd the race finish? Well, Max Verstappen took the win ahead of Lando Norris, who did manage fastest lap. Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, P3, P4. So a good day for Mercedes, given where they were at the start of the year, where they have been in the ground effect era. This was a pretty good day for the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula 1 team. Leclerc, Sainz 5 and 6. Not so good for them, given where they started, given Charles Leclerc was second in the Drivers' Championship before this Grand Prix. Anyway, Oscar bottled qualifying, which hurts really bad because of how much everyone's closed up. If you have a bad quali and if you have a bad start as well, it really does hurt you exponentially. And obviously Checo down in P8. Wasn't his fault, really, getting that 3 place grid drop because the team told him to drive back to the pits, and we kind of all know why. And kind of got away with it. There you go. Only recovered to P8 in the end, to Checo. But then both Alpines in the points again. Is that 2 weeks? Is that 2 weeks in a row that both Alpines have been in the points? Because I know Gasly's been in the points like 3. Is it 3 Grand Prix on the trot? I think it's 3 Grand Prix on the trot. Hang on, let me have a look. Yeah. So he was, yeah. It was the exact same result last race. Gasly 9, Ocon 10, and then Gasly was 10th in Monaco. Because, well, we all know what happened to Esteban in Monaco, don't we? We all know what happened to Esteban. I wouldn't go as far to say Alpine resurgence. Because the thing is, as well, you look at where Yuki and Daniel finished, 15th and 19th. And, you know, literally, like, last race we were looking at Ricciardo. Ricciardo finished 8th in Canada. Tsunoda would have been in the points if not for his bottle. You know, Racing Bulls have been, Yuki's been in the points 5 times and in the Miami Sprint this year. Yet this weekend they were nowhere. So it's so close that just a track slightly favouring your car characteristics or the opposite can massively change the way you look at, you know, Ferrari didn't really feel like, probably damage was done on Saturday, right? But maybe Leclerc could have caught Russell if things had gone a little bit different, but we'll get into that. Yuki's pace was nowhere. You're right, it wasn't. It was nowhere. All 20 cars finished, no yellows, all race. Yeah, and you know what, to be fair, the fact that there was no shenanigans, yeah, there was a couple of little bits of contact, a few little bits of carbon littered about, but no yellow flags, no safety cars. Everyone finished. These cars are so reliable these days. You know, I don't know whether the new engine rules, whether they should up the RPM allowed to put more stress on these engines to make them less reliable, but not in a way that you like design them worse. Just you allow the engines to I don't know. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's not. But yeah. Oh, the Albon off was a yeah. Bryce, that's a good point actually. Yeah. Alex had his little dip. Didn't actually. Well, we'll talk about that later. I didn't actually because Alex seemed to think it was an issue with the car, and he was a bit short with the team, being like, "Oh no, everything's fine our end," and he was like, "No, it's not." It's quite funny. But there you go. There you go. Right. That's how things finished. Verstappen, Norris, Hamilton, Russell, Leclerc, Sainz, Piastri, Perez, Gasly, Ocon, Hulkenberg, Alonso, Zhou, Stroll, Ricciardo, Bottas, Magnussen, Albon, Tsunoda, Sargent, all finished. And that means the driver standings are as follows. Max extends his lead at the front to 69 points. Nice. Over Lando Norris now, instead of Charles Leclerc. Lando jumps 2 points ahead of the Monegasque man. The Monegasque man. Sainz 116, Perez 111, Piastri 87, Russell 81. Russell's only 6 points off Piastri now. So a good weekend for Mercedes, like I said. Hamilton 70. So that early season struggle for Mercedes has put them back in the drivers and the constructor standards, of course. But it looks like they're a cat amongst the pigeons now, you know. They're getting themselves about. They're taking points off. This is what I mean, right, as well, when we talk about a potential Verstappen title being pretty likely, even though McLaren have caught up, even though Ferrari and Mercedes are close, Max can still deliver. He's still, I think, the differentiating factor in winning these races. And Mercedes and McLaren and Ferrari are all taking points off of each other. So that might save Red Bull in the end. Not so much Max getting beaten by the others, but because I think that, you know, that will happen. He will not win all the races for the remainder of this year. I think that's pretty odds on. But he can rely on, you know, Lando and Lewis and George and Carlos and everyone taking points off of each other behind him, you know. But yeah, that's how the championship standings are looking. Any movement? So Ocon moves above Albon. He's got 3 points now. 1 point ahead of Alex. Other than that, there was no positional change, apart from Norris and Leclerc swapping places as well. Behrman's position in F1 is higher than F2. The game's the game, isn't it? No points for Ollie this weekend in F2, but is still on 6 in Formula 1. So must tells you a lot, though, right? About how, you know, we see certain drivers excel and get a lot of points and do well in F2. And obviously Ollie did a lot last year to impress. But performing well in F2 does not necessarily translate into how well you'd perform in F1. In both a negative and a positive way as well, right? You could be really good in F2. When I say really good, you could score loads of points in F2 and really struggle in F1. You could score sod all points in F2 and do really well in F1. Primer's not been great. Obviously, Antonelli is doing pretty well in the championship. But obviously, Ollie's been more so distracted with the FP1s for Haas, with filling in for Carlos and missing that whole weekend in Saudi where he put it on pole. So you think there's a good chance of a race win there. So there's a lot of context to that. But yeah, all in all, Prima did. I mean, they really struggled in Bahrain, didn't they? But generally, it feels like they've struggled a bit in F2 this year. But you know, it's different machinery at the end of the day, and there's going to be some drivers who take to F1 better than others, and some drivers who take to F2 better than others. Thank you, Rua, as well, for the super chat. Shout out to Alex Dunn, first Irish F3 podium ever. Indeed, Alex Dunn, part of the McLaren Academy, scored a podium for Ireland. Lovely jubbly. My surname is Gaelic heritage. So I've never been to Ireland though. Never been to Ireland before, so I'll have to go one day. I have to go get some Guinness. I don't think I'd like Guinness. I don't like beer. I'm a cider man or a cocktail man. Love a Negroni. That's my go-to cocktail at the minute. Love a Negroni. Very good. Have I watched Frecker? No, I've not watched Freckatina. I've not, to be honest. I was watching a bit of British Touring Cars this weekend, actually, at Alton Park. That was quite fun. I enjoyed that. Anyway, right, I digress. I'm getting sidetracked here. So those are the driver standings as they stand after 10 of 24 race weekends. We're almost at mid-season point, actually. So after the next 2 races, then we'll have had 12, and then I can do my nice mid-season report, where we'll talk about how all the drivers have done, maybe give them a ranking. Any suggestions, any thoughts? Maybe what we could do in the mid-season report. Maybe let me know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. Maybe if you're live as well, you still should be able to go into the comments. If you've got any suggestions for the mid-season report, let me know, because I've always done them in the past. They do pretty well. You know, you guys seem to enjoy them, so we'll do that again this year. Wild how we're nearly at mid-season. Yeah, well, it's gone. I think this season's gone quite slowly. I'm quite enjoying it because there's a lot of different levels to it. You had Max establishing dominance at the start, but now we've got this kind of leveling out, and it feels like he's not had the, I don't know, people say, oh, he's not had the quickest car, or Lando's got the quickest car. It's like, yeah, but it's the driver the quality of the driver is fundamentally intertwined with the quality of the car. So it's like, it's so hard to actually differentiate how much of this is car and how much of it is driver. But that's a age-old problem that we will always be talking about. Even if I'm doing this when I'm 85, you know, I'll still be talking about this. Team standings, again, movement-wise, Alpine jump ahead of Haas. 3 points on the board for them. Otherwise, no change. See, Mercedes have closed that gap up somewhat, but still, that's 86 points behind McLaren. Big gap. Ferrari behind Red Bull, 60 points. So the gap between Max and Lando is bigger than the gap between Red Bull and Ferrari. And obviously, not many points for Checo this weekend, but big points for Max. So, well, that would have been if Lando had got ahead of Max past him, that's what, a 7-point swing. But then, you know, it's like 14-point differential. But then obviously McLaren aren't second in the constructors because they didn't have as strong a start to the year as Ferrari. But there's definitely a battle going on here. No one can deny there's a constructors battle going on. Mainly because, you know, Checo isn't holding up his end of the bargain right now. And I struggle to see a point where he will, to be honest, this season. It's not good, Brev. Anyway, okay, so that's how the team standings sit after 10 of 24 races. But what about my bangers and clangers for the 2024 Spanish Grand Prix? Well, before we get to that, predictions, okay? Wednesday? I think Wednesday. We did a live stream. I gave my predictions. You gave your predictions. And we are going to reflect on said predictions to see who did best. Now, tick for good shout. If not, yes. Cross for wrong. I think I've done pretty well. My predictions on Wednesday were this. Lewis win. Long shot. He got a podium, okay? First podium of the year. So, if he'd have had a start as good as George, then he wouldn't have won it. But he would have been in a much better position. Much closer in the end. Lewis Hamilton race winner. Wrong. Banger drive Nico Hulkenberg. He's definitely up there. For sure. P11 in the end. Great start from Nico as well. Way ahead. And Magnussen was like 16th in the end. Hulkenberg, great race. Clanger drive Sargent. Last in quali. Slow in the race. He's not the clanger necessarily, but he's up there. He's definitely up there in clangs. Come on. He has to be. Banger team Mercedes. They're up there. Podium. P3, P4. Got to be up there. And clanger team Aston Martin. Well, behind a Haas. Behind both Alpines. They're up there. They're not necessarily the clangingest, but they're up there. So I think 4 out of 5 of these, I'm giving myself 4 out of 5. That's pretty good. All right, that's pretty good. Pretty good. As for your predictions, race win Max. Well done. Well done. Well, what a shout that was. God, out of nowhere. Banger drive Piastri. No. If anything, he was down there with the clangers, for sure. Clanger drive Checo. He was certainly one of the clangingest. After, obviously, I know he gets the free place grid drop, but he still qualifies down in P8. and doesn't make any progress in the race. But then neither did Piastri, and that's the thing, right? You'd have the top two cars in the McLaren and the Red Bull. Piastri and Perez both had their issues in qualifying, and neither were able to recover and jump the Ferraris or the Mercedes. And that just, I think it's fair to say Lando and obviously Max are better than Oscar and Checo, respectively, right now. But even so, you would expect, but maybe you shouldn't expect that now because of how close it is at the front. Banger Team McLaren win, almost. Not this time, Lando. He thought he should, though. Lando was very firmly like, we had a car that should have won. He felt like he let the car down, basically, with his start. And, he's very self-critical, Lando, and we'll maybe get into whether that's true or not. It's really difficult to say. It really is. But all in all, they did deliver a package that was at least as good as the Red Bull, if not the best car. And Oscar was the one who messed up in qualifying, not the team. So, all in all, I don't think it was on McLaren. You can talk about the strategy, and we will talk about the strategy, but I think it wasn't the strategy that cost Lando. It could have been, maybe they could have optimised the strategy a bit better. But all in all, I think if he doesn't have that, not great start, then he's got a much better chance of winning. And he takes on the responsibility that he had for that part of the race. Team kind of messed up the pit stop. The pit stops weren't amazing. It was a bit slow on that rear left, wasn't it? But all in all, though, I think they delivered a car that around a track. I was not expect. I thought the Red Bull would be clear around here. To be honest, I did. I thought the Red Bull would be pretty clear, and Lewis would do some like tomfoolery, or like Max would, I don't know, have a collision or some nonsense that would mean Lewis would like win, and Mercedes would be the second quickest car. That was my expectation going into this weekend. So fair play to McLaren for delivering, but couldn't deliver the win, unfortunately. Thank you, Dylan, by the way, for Super Chat. Ricardo had a good race, couldn't do much more. Yeah, that's what he said post-race, didn't he? He seemed pretty happy with his race, even though the racing balls was not very, very there, was it, this weekend? And then Clanger Team Sauber, no. There were bigger clangs this weekend. Joe got P13, Bottas P15, I want to say? 16? Yeah, so, I mean, not the worst. Better than we thought they would be. Although Bottas they did screw Bottas a bit. Well, Bottas was on the soft, medium, hard, wasn't he? Which was just the wrong strategy. But, I mean, so was George, so was Carlos. Joe had the preferable strategy. But a lot of teams kind of went both ways with their cars. So, yeah, all in all, I'm not going to say good job, Sauber, but not as terrible as late. A little bit better. Oh, did Bottas have soft, hard? Oh, I thought Bottas had soft, medium, hard. Ouch. Jeez. I knew Joe had the better, but the hard tyre was just a bad tyre to be on, wasn't it? Bad tyre to be on. So, yeah, not the worst from Sauber, but certainly not the best either. Not the best either. So those are your predictions. Those are mine. We're pretty even. To be fair, pretty even in our correct and incorrectness. Okay. I'm not going to claim a victory on this one. We'll call this one a draw this weekend. Yeah. Call it a draw. See you next weekend, all right? Or this weekend, should I say? It's 3 in a row now, isn't it? Jeez, and it's only going to get warmer here as well. Oh, Jamie, stop it. Poor Valtteri. Right. Bangers and clangers time. 2024 Spanish Grand Prix. Who banged? Who clanged? Well, there's a few names. I think the names for me is Max. Didn't put it on pole. Made the difference this weekend. Didn't make a mistake. Which can't be. I mean, the fact that Lando got driver of the day. Come on, that is a bit silly. But he's popular, so, and Max is popular as well. But I think the idea that Lando was closing and almost gave us a fight at the front, I think people were voting based off that. But whatever. So it's Max. Pierre. Great race from Pierre. Alpine gave him a clanging pit stop. He almost finished ahead of Perez. Perez got him on the last lap, which I still haven't seen a replay for, actually. I'd have to have a look. But Pierre almost held on to P8, P9 in the end. And then Hulkenberg. I mean, I put Hulkenberg as my prediction. My banger drive for the 24 Spanish Grand Prix is Nico Hulkenberg. I think he extracted pretty decent, like, couldn't have done much more in qualifying, I don't think, given the pace of that Haas relative to the cars around it. Made good positions at the start, no mistakes, almost caught Ocon at the end as well. Almost got points in the Haas. For me, given where K-Mag finished as well, K-Mag was down the order, Gasly had a great race. If it had held on, I would have given it Gasly. But the thing is that the Alpine did have pace because Ocon finished in the points as well. So clearly that Alpine was a better package this weekend. Nico was more impressive relative to his teammate. So I'm giving it Nico. All right. I'm giving it Nico. All right. Gasly fans. Gasly's second, Max is third. If I had to do a three, I'd do Nico, Pierre, Max. That's my three. So, no, it was Kev. Kev got the 5 second, didn't he? I'm sure Kev got the 5 second penalty for speeding or something. No, it's full start, Kev. Kev got it for full start. But yeah, I'm giving it Nico. I'm giving it Nico, all right? Quiet about it. Oh, both did. There you go. Well, you know. And he still got P11. So, bosh. Look at that. Happy days. Right. Clanger drive. Who had the stink? Who had the stinker? Okay. Oh, by the way, that's the 5th time Nico's finished 11th this season. So 50% of the races this year he's finished 11th and scored nil points. What is it with this man putting in performances and not getting podium / points? Savage. Right. Clanger drive. So, who had stink as well? Okay, obviously Perez. Obviously. Piastri. Bottled quali hard. Could and should have been higher up. Who else? Who are you saying? Yuki. I mean, both the racing balls were slow, but yeah, Yuki was like P19. Daniel Ricciardo was like P15, so fair. Alonso was struggling at the start, wasn't he? He was losing position. Yeah, Logan, another not particularly great race, not much to... Alex as well. Alex had a stink. Alex actually went off, didn't he? He was like the closest it felt like to getting a safe... No, not a safety car, but like there were like yellow flags in that sector when he went wide. But he thinks it's the car, so I don't know if there's been clarity on that. Science, yeah, I mean Science was getting a bit. It was interesting, isn't it? We'll talk about the Ferrari boys, but yeah, he was getting a bit aggy with the old moves, and obviously he had these battle with Charles and he had his battle with Lewis, and he wasn't particularly happy about either of them. So, for me, my clanger this weekend, Checo. Sorry, Checo, like. It's just the lack of progression and how far he finished. I know he did a free stop, but he finished so far behind Piastri. He was like 15. Let me check the exact delta. Actually, I've literally got it on here already. It is. Oh no, I haven't. I lied. Here we go on results. He finished 26 seconds behind Oscar. And a minute behind Max. Like, come on. That's crazy. That is sorry, Checo. You can't just like that can't happen and you just go like gets brushed under. A minute behind Max. 26 seconds behind Oscar. Like Oscar wasn't a mile. What? How was he? Oscar was 2 seconds off of Carlos by the end. And again, Oscar, he made a mistake in quali. He's punished for it and he's up there. But Checo, come on. It's bad. It's really not good. And I know in the post-race press review, he was like, oh, it's hard to overtake around here. I'm like, bro, there were so many overtakes. He just, I don't know. It ran this kind of track. I'm not surprised Checo struggled, because it's these high-speed tracks that really accentuate the gap in ability to drive this car that Checo and Max clearly have. It says it's square peg round hole. Checo's style does not work with this car. Ricciardo's style did not work with a McLaren. And people will argue, oh no, Daniel's just washed. And people will argue, oh, Checo's just washed. I think if both of them are in, I think Daniel was great in Renault. I think Checo was great in Racing Point. You know, I think both of them would be given better accounts of themselves in different machinery. I think Daniel's, hopefully he's finding something now. He was better than Yuki this weekend, but all in all, yeah, I think it's just, yeah. That's why I said it in my Liam Lawson video, which, yeah, if you haven't watched it, go and watch my Liam Lawson video after this. That's why I think Lawson would do a better job than Checo in this car, because he's younger, he's more naive, he's more engrossed with the simulator from the start of his career. Like, he does all the sim work. Like, he knows he's going to be more naturally adept to the characteristics of this car than Checo, who's had a long career beforehand racing at McLaren, then Force India, then, you know, I don't know. This can't keep going on, but I guess it will keep going on unless he finds some performance, which, I don't know, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, not in a bad way, not naivety in a bad way. Literally, Ricciardo talked about this when he was like at McLaren, how like Lando doesn't know any different to that car, so he can handle its quirks, whereas, you know, Ricciardo has raced for various different teams, and, you know, these cars are all this 11,000 components that go into making these cars, and they're all different. Well, some more than others, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Time will tell on that one anyway. Right, banger team who delivered the heat this weekend in Spain. Well, my go for banger team is Alpine. I know, right? Shock. Alpine actually doing bits, seemingly. Two weekends in a row, double points. 3 weekends in a row, Pierre Gasly points. And both of them in Q3. Team let Pierre down a little bit on his pit stop. Ocon claimed he had a bit of damage as well post-race, which was slowing him down a wee bit. But he probably just dropped that in because Pierre finished ahead of him. You know what? I'm giving it Alpine. I think given the rot, given the struggles, given all of the bad press recently, the fact that now they've had 2 weekends in a row, and I think this was their strongest weekend of the season so far. Credit where credit is due. They've turned this somewhat around. Now, is this look? I think Canada and Spain are two very different tracks as well. So the fact that they've double points in Canada and Spain, and Pierre got a point in Monaco as well, is good. It is a positive sign. Because the thing is when you think about it, right? Alpine obviously have a engine deficit that they are open about. Okay, they're losing a few tenths with their engine deficit. If they didn't have such a trash engine, in terms of their chassis, like if you give Alpine, if you lop a few tenths off of their quali times and their, you know, lap times, they're probably clear of Aston Martin. But they don't, because they've got this engine that just is deficient. No one else is running it for a reason. But obviously they're desperate, backs against the wall. Bring Briatore back, which has gone down like a lead balloon with some. What's my feeling on Briatore coming back? To bring him back into like the same team where all that went down is pretty crazy, and it kind of it feels like a very desperate move to be like, oh, the last time we had success was during the Briatore era when Fernando was winning. So you know what? Yeah, he did cheat. Let's bring him back. Like, I don't know. obviously, Pat Simmons was involved in that as well when he went on to work for like F1. And is it Pat Simmons who's doing stuff with Andretti now? I can't remember. But obviously, Briatore was team principal back then. So, I don't know. It stinks of desperation. Giving people a second chance, and I think Alpine should know what they're signing up for. Briatore is very old school, and I don't doubt that he could bring value to that team, but again, it's just another change in upper management. Budkowski, Rossi, Beatable, Brivio, like the list goes on. Otmar, like it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Like it just, bro. I don't know. It's just a bit embarrassing at the minute, isn't it? But at least the team had a good race this weekend. Nothing against Enstone. It's a nice, I think it's good vibe little team. The Enstone little base. It's just upper management stinks, but there you go. So that's my banger team, Alpine. Obviously, Mercedes had a great weekend as well. But yeah, I think that Alpine impressed me more so, given where they were anyway. Clanger team this weekend, worst team, pretty clear for me, Racing Bulls. Brought upgrades this weekend, good expectation, both out in Q1, Ricciardo and Tsunoda. Tsunoda had the slight advantage in quali, but it was pretty close. It's like a 10th between them. And in the race, Ricciardo had the better race performance from Daniel than Yuki. Not good, especially when you're bringing upgrades. That always kind of, you see so many teams now. So many. You see certain teams more than others. Like McLaren, when they brought their big upgrades last year, immediately upticked performance. Mercedes with this new front wing, to be fair to them, pretty immediate uptick to performance. Yeah, I think calling it an upgrade implies it's going to make the car better. It's a change, isn't it? They changed the car this weekend, and maybe it's track specific to Catalonia, but this track's a pretty good test. You've got the high speed, medium speed, and you've got a few low speed corners chucked in there as well. So, not great. Hopefully they find out what's going on there. But also, I guess from the team's point of view, the fact that Daniel from his point of view anyway, had a good weekend. I don't think he could have done too much more this weekend, given where Yuki was. That's a positive sign somewhat for the team because, again, Daniel's very hot and cold. So the more often he's hot, the better. But yeah. So those are my bangers and clangers for the 2024 Spanish Grand Prix. You're welcome to disagree with me. But what about yours? Well, 1,346 of you voted. Thank you for voting. I did put the poll out on my YouTube community page, so make sure you, like this stream. Okay, like it now. And subscribe to the channel as well. Much appreciate it. I also post it on Twitter, so you can follow me at TOMMO'F1, TW, because Twitter Tommo. And let's see what you lot thought. So, your banger drive for the 2024 Spanish Grand Prix was Max Verstappen, 52% of the vote. Finally, he gets a banger drive because it's very easy to overlook Max. And you'd be, you didn't give it to Max. Yeah, but it's also very easy to overlook a performance like Nico Hülkenberg and Pierre Gasly because they're down in the bottom ends, fringes of the points. But I think Max deserves huge credit because I think, once again, not for the first time this year, he has been the differentiating factor. Now, do I think the balance, right? The Red Bull versus the McLaren. I think Max is more complete than Lando. I think Max is the best driver in F1 right now. The fact that Lando could and maybe should have won, that because of my opinion towards Max as a driver versus Lando. And I don't think there's much in it. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Max is a mile clear of everyone else. I really don't. He's great. He's great. I don't think he's a mile. I think that is you're so if you're of that opinion, I think that really overlooks the quality in Leclerc, in Hamilton, in Russell, in Sainz, in Norris, right? That's the way I see it. But the fact that Max won that race where Lando probably did have more pace. That tells me, in my opinion, that the McLaren was the faster car, because Lando isn't as good as Max, yet had the pace to be quicker than Max, and therefore Max made the difference again, because we've had a few races now where I feel like that has been the case. And fair play, 52% of the vote, Max Verstappen. 19% of the vote, Lewis Hamilton. Obviously got on the podium, first time this year on the podium for Lewis. That was nice as well. You know what was really nice? Like, them little, like, Lando, and particularly like Max and Lewis, like, because there's so much, just people get so wound up. The extremes of Max and Lewis's fan base, always going at it all the time. Like, these two, they're all right. They get along with each other. Like, clearly, like, there's not this, like, there used to be genuine, like, bitter rivalries in F1. You look at, I don't know, like Montoya Schumacher. Like, there's plenty of examples of, like, genuine, like, disdain and, like, no relationship off track. Max and Lewis, seeing them, like, laugh and joke, like, they go around on this circus. They're, like, within each other's lives on a regular basis, and it's just hilarious how the extremes of their fan base just I reckon sometimes they just both, like, they just sit together and look at their phones, see all their fans beefing, and they're like, what the hell are these lot playing at? We don't even hate each other. Then they all hate each other. It's such a waste of energy, isn't it? But yeah, that was nice to see. They both, Max and Lando, both soaked Lewis on the podium. So it's good to see Lewis back on the podium, and better qualifying from him this time. Better qualifying still. No, he out-qualified George, didn't he? Just. But then obviously George got the launch of launches, didn't he? Unreal from George at the start. So yeah, it was good vibes on the podium. 11% Norris. Obviously the pole was very impressive. He had a bad start. He did, obviously, McLaren put him on they gave him a challenge, didn't they? They were like, right, we're going to give you a tyre offset, but then you've got to start making overtakes. And obviously, him being stuck behind George at the start, where Max could get that move done early doors. I don't know if Lando could have pushed harder at the start to get past George, even though he would have burned through his tyres quicker at the start. Maybe that would have made a difference in the end. I think giving him banger drive is generous, to be honest. 11% Gasly though. Gasly gets his flowers, so happy days for Pierre Gasly. Clanger drive, 33% for Checo, so he wins this one again. I mean, it's a win. He wins the bad category again. 33% of the vote for Checo, 17% for Sargent, 15% Tsunoda, 8% Piastri. I think for me it's Perez then Piastri. I think Piastri's got off a bit light here. I think Perez and Piastri had both made mistake. Well, Oscar made just an out mistake in quality and bottled his lap. Perez, obviously, Red Bull wanted to use him for the toe for Max, but he still could and should have qualified higher than he did. But yeah, Sargent and Tsunoda both had pretty poor weekends as well. But then, Albon finished ahead of Logan, but he had his off. It wasn't a great weekend for Alex either, so I wouldn't have been against him getting in the top four either, to be fair. But yeah, not a good weekend for Williams either way. But Checo takes the dub on Clanger Drive, unfortunately. Banger team. 57% go Mercedes, 32% Alpine. So there's a good amount of you who giving Alpine the credit I think they deserve. 6% McLaren, 5% Red Bull. It's fair. Went into a gravel trap, but still in front of Logan. Yeah, well, but he also went into the gravel trap, so that could have ended up a lot worse. But still don't know. Yeah, I still don't actually know. Don't know if Williams have confirmed whether it was a car issue or not. Yeah, I think the thing is, right, you look at the if you look at the driver standings, because I remember looking at it last night and being like, hang on, Piastri and Perez, like Piastri is almost as far off Norris points wise than Perez is off Verstappen, but I do think Piastri has been more a victim of bad luck than Perez has. Like, was it Miami with the time in the safety car? Like, Piastri was on for a quality result there, and it passed him. I feel like more of that gap is... Don't get me wrong, I think Piastri would still be like a good 30, 40 points behind Norris, even without that bad luck. But I do think that luck has been more of a component in Oscar's struggles, in my opinion. But yes, banger team, you've given it to Mercedes, and fair enough. I don't. It was them or Alpine. I went Alpine, you went Mercedes, right? You went one way, I went the other way. It's all good. It's all good. And then finally, Clanger team. Clanger team this weekend is Racing Bulls. We agree on that one. 46% of the vote. 28% Williams. Yes, they were bad. Probably their worst weekend of the year. But it's not like they brought upgrades and were expecting good and got none of it like Racing Bulls did. 16% Aston Martin. Both finished behind Nico Hulkenberg. Stroll finished behind Joe as well. Finished behind Sal, but that's not good. And 6% Ferrari. Yeah. I think if Saturday had been a bit different for them, then maybe they could have. But I just don't think they had quite had the pace around it this weekend. Okay, cool. So those are your bangers and clangers. Max, Checo, Mercedes, Racing Bulls. Mine, Nico, Checo, Alpine, Racing Bulls. So, yeah. The biggest difference is in banger drive, isn't it? Nico didn't even make your top 4, which I'm like, come on. How did Norris get in the top 4 for banger, but not Nico? Sorry, I don't. Good in quali Lando, but I think that start just wasn't it. That hat is very bright hat, isn't it? Very bright hat. Right, okay, team by team. And we're going to start with Alpine. And we can actually be positive about Alpine for once. No, it was a very good drive from Pierre. Still quite up in the air about his contract, isn't it? Obviously with old, what's his name? I completely forgot his name. Flav, Briatore. With Briatore coming in, and part of his job is driver transfers. Like, that is part of the reason they've brought him in. Like, driver market stuff. So, obviously, we know Ocon's going. Pierre is not confirmed. Doohan, obviously, is doing good work in the sim. And the team have given Doohan credit for his impact in terms of the work he's putting in on the simulator, because he is, as much as he's doing a lot of media, he's also doing a lot of work in the simulator. I saw Will Buxton on Twitter. He was saying that on Friday, Doohan didn't get any sleep. He just went, because he did like an all-nighter on the sim, and they had a good weekend. So I think they're in a good place with Jack, but obviously with Flav coming in, and if he is going to be like, you know, if De Meo's looking at Briatore for the answers in terms of driver lineup, it's interesting, right? Does Pierre stay? I think Pierre should stay. I don't think there's a realistic better option out there for him. I think Pierre should stay. But obviously that second seat, does Briatore look at Doohan and think, actually, no, I want a kind of more high profile name in there? But then who do you get, you know? I feel like obviously Joe's been linked with the team. He used to be part of Renault, brings a bag, hasn't been great for Sauber this year. You know, I was firmly I've been really disappointed by Joe, really disappointed, because in those first 2 years to Bottas, his quali delta was not that bad at all. He was pretty close to Valtteri. Valtteri would have the edge in the races, but he was pretty close to Valtteri and would out-qualify Valtteri on his day as well. But this year, it's not even been close. So, I don't know. He'd have to bring some serious bag, I think, to get in there at Alpine. I feels like that's maybe his most realistic option is Joe, like alongside Gasly. But to pick Joe over Doohan, I don't know. I mean, Doohan's not lit up the junior formulas. Say he outscored everyone in F2 last year, if you only include the second 2/3 of the season, which is a long time, but also that's not how motorsport works. But it does indicate that he had a very, very good second 2/3 of the season, an exceptional second 2/3 of the season. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that's. I think Briatore is maybe going to change how that lineup looks if they had instead compared to how it would have looked if they hadn't brought him in. Time will tell. Time will tell on that one. But good performance from the team. That's the main thing. Bad pit stop for Pierre, but he made up for it. And it's good to see, like, because Pierre was struggling at the start of the season, but he seems to have found something now. And that's good for him, and that's good for the team as well, right? Because the guy leaving, Ocon, was absolutely dumping on him in qualifying consistently. Not by a massive margin, to be fair, but just consistently quicker. But now it doesn't seem the case, which is good. It's good to see. Mick Schumacher obviously would be he's got obviously his connections to Alpine. The Schumacher name is obviously, going to bring a lot of benefits to the team as well. And yeah, it depends. I mean, from what we've heard, he's not under serious consideration. But again, Briatore coming in, maybe he'll be like, you know what, like, obviously Briatore was Briatore team principal when that team was Benetton, when Schumacher was there. Am I right in saying that, chat? Help me out here, chat. I feel like Briatore, yeah, he was, yeah. So maybe that Briatore connection to Schumacher, to Michael anyway, stands Mick in better stead for that seat. Perhaps. So, yeah, obviously I know Michael won the championship with Benetton, but I couldn't remember if Briatore. I feel like I remember seeing a picture. I've seen pictures of Briatore in the Benetton gear with Michael, with the Decra hat on, back in the day. So yeah, maybe actually, yeah, hadn't really thought about that, but maybe Briatore could lead to Mick Schumacher being in that seat next year. Maybe, more than doing. Aston Martin, yeah, not good. Yeah, I don't know what to say really. Just not good. Fernando finished ahead of Lance. I know some of you think I give Lance too much benefit of doubt. Lance isn't a mile off Fernando. Like, over recent weeks, he's been out qualifying Fernando. He didn't this time round. And in the race, Fernando 12th, Lance 14th. But, I mean, what was the final gap? Oh, I can't see the final gap because they both got lapped. It wasn't a mile off Fernando. I think Lance is good enough to outperform Fernando on Fernando's bad days. Because Fernando, like, he's only human. Everyone has bad days. He's good enough to outperform. That wasn't the case this weekend. Fernando was better throughout the weekend. But, I mean, and does Lance deserve that seat? Absolutely not. Of course he doesn't. But yeah, I think the situation Aston find itself in is really, it's really weird at the minute. I saw a report actually that Enrico Cardile, I don't know how true it is, and maybe we'll see over the next couple of days, but there was, I saw some talk on Twitter that he's going to Aston Martin. So Enrico Cardile is technical director at Ferrari, and there's talk he's maybe going to go to Aston Martin. That's not confirmed. Far from it, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, obviously, we know that Lawrence has made a big budget offer to Adrian Newey to bring him in. I mean, I don't think just bringing one person in, even Adrian Newey, is going to fix all the issues. They've got a fantastic facility. There's a lot of potential in that team. They're not realising it yet. They had a very exciting start to last year, but it's very much tailed off. Their changes to the car, like Racing Bulls this weekend, not always bringing upgrades in performance, upticks in performance. Yeah. It's really, I don't really don't know where I sit with Aston Martin. They're kind of very hard to work out. Very hard to work out. But yeah, I would rather see Newey go back to Williams, just because it's that historic name in F1, and he used to be at that team, and to like go back and like bring them up, that would be cool. Especially with an Albon Science lineup, which could well happen. Time will tell on that one. Time will tell. Ferrari. Right. Okay. Interesting. So, this week's video that I'm going to record, and I've already scripted actually quite a lot of it this morning, is going to be talking all about Ferrari and the Ferrari boys, because there's a little bit of tension this weekend that we haven't seen all that often from The boys are fighting. Yeah, from these two. So obviously we had. Okay, so TLDR. Okay, according to what Charles said after the race, there was an agreed strategy according to Charles. Right, according to Charles, there was an agreed strategy beforehand, but both would save their tyres at the start, save their softs at the start, hold position, and then do soft, medium, soft. That seemed to be what Charles' point of view was. Carlos's point of view was that I'm doing soft, medium, hard, so I need to go harder on my softs at the start, because I need to use up that tyre to its best of its ability. I don't need to save it because then I'm going on the hard at the end. And that's weird because Carlos started behind Charles, so surely you would think if you're going to put one of them on a strategy where you have to push more on the hards, softs at the start, you would put the driver in front on that strategy. I don't know, okay? I've looked at the quotes that have come out of Charles' mouth, Carlos's mouth, Fred's mouth as well. Fred's kind of patting it down and almost telling Charles to stop moaning in his, straight to the point way, which I like about Fred. I think that's important. And yeah, Helito, I think it's a good point. Charles needs to do PR training again because he shouldn't say all that stuff during the debrief to the media because, it does get everyone talking. Does it need to be said what he said, that Carlos was going for a, what's the word? I've literally got it in my little scripts that I've got here. I'm putting together. Spectacular. I guess he wanted to do something a bit spectacular is what Charles said, for the overtake, which, to be fair, on the overtake, Carlos, they were alongside each other, but Carlos did not give Charles a full car's width. Like you can see on the replay, Charles has to get on the curb. So, and then that seems to then, obviously getting onto the curb into turn one is what seems to cause Charles to then lose a bit of control. And then he has to kind of correct and, Carlos kind of takes there's contact and then it kind of carries on. So, yeah, I think ultimately we don't know. We'll probably never know exactly what was agreed beforehand. But either way, getting a bit spicy between the two of them. Obviously, Charles finished ahead. Carlos did let him through in the end because Charles was on the soft tyre. Carlos was on the hard. Carlos just didn't even bother fighting it. Just go through. You're on a soft, I'm on a hard. Charles' strategy was clearly the correct one. Because Charles actually mirrored Lando's, didn't he? Charles stayed out for a long time. He came in one lap after Lando, in fact, on that soft front at the start. Was able to save those tyres early on, and then it paid dividends at the end. But yeah, and obviously the fact that Charles almost caught George as well, I think in that post-race, he was looking back at reasons where he lost time. Reasons to lose time. And he did lose time because Carlos passed him. And he did probably lose time with that contact, which caused a tiny bit of damage. Fred did say post-race that they couldn't see any, marketed loss in performance. But if a bit of carbon comes off your car, you're going to be losing some performance, especially if that happens at the start of the race. Because even if it's only fractional, that will add up over the course of the race, right? And I think that's where Charles had a bit of head loss about. He was like, oh. But then Fred said it himself. He said, if there were plenty of other times in the race where Charles lost time. It wasn't just there with Carlos. Small moments throughout the race where Charles lost time. So to kind of put it all on Carlos is a bit unfair because, there were many opportunities that Charles could have, not lost time through his own doing and maybe pipped George to P4. But it's very interesting that. And I think, I don't think this... I've said for a long time, right? This pairing is the best pairing in F1. It's in terms of individual quality, but also cohesiveness as a team. Now we're starting to see the cracks, but that's only because, in my opinion, Carlos is leaving, and there is that inevitable insecurity that comes with one driver leaving, worried about being kept out of things. Carlos has also got, obviously, he's got to think about his next step, so that's taking up brain capacity for him. So I think that's the case, because Carlos talked about it this weekend. You know, that is weighing on him. Where's the exact quote? I've literally got that in here as well. Where is the quote? Where is the quote, Vamos? Yeah, here we go. I don't want to wait any longer. I think it's getting to a point where it's obviously taking space out of my head for quite a few weeks now and months. I'm not sure one way or another. And that's him talking about whatever that seat is, whether it's Audi or Williams. And it's his home race as well, yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of context that goes into why Carlos would go for that move. So for Charles to say, like, Carlos went for something spectacular, yeah, he probably did, and he was like, I was probably not the right person to do that on. And I don't know. Part of me's like, that's probably not actually that unfair of a thing to say, but it's just like, don't say it in the post-race media to all of the world to watch and then to critique and pick up. Like, keep that to your driver briefing, you know. Anyway, Ferrari should have done better on Saturday. We'll see how they do this weekend. Austria and Silverstone. I think Silverstone they'll run well in. I'm not so sure about Austria. They're pretty good in the slow speed, actually. I think that, yeah, maybe... Oh, I don't know. I think they'll be good in both. But as good as McLaren and Red Bull? We'll see. Haas, well done, Nico. Credit where credit is due, for sure, for Nico Hulkenberg. P11 again. No points, but... I have to do a... Maybe that's a video. Maybe that's a... Oh, that could be cool, actually. Doing a video where I... Maybe like a mid-season video. I'll do my like mid-season report, and then I also do one where how would the F1 season look if it had IndyCar's point system? Because IndyCar gives you get like 50 points for first, 40 for second, but then like everyone gets points. So Nico would be getting rewarded for these P11 finishes. But then everyone would be getting points. It'd just be interesting to see how the championship might look different with everything exactly the same happening on track, but just a different point system. That'd be cool. Yeah, has Mr. V done? I know he's done a point system video, but I don't think he's done that one. Big up Mr. V, by the way. Great man. Why is everyone getting points so boring? I don't understand. Why is that boring? Like, surely it's more exciting so that everyone gets points, so that everyone is fighting for every position, because every position matters. Why would it be boring that everyone gets points? I don't understand this argument. I really don't. Like, every position means something. So, like, if you're P18 and you're someone ahead of P17, there's no point even fighting them properly because there's nothing on the line. Whereas if every position gave points, every position means something. I don't understand why it would be more boring. Everyone getting points is potentially dangerous. Why is it Why? Please, Marv, explain to me your point. But points are less worthy in general then. But every position still gets more points. I'm not seeing a... And that's the thing as well. I think the current point system, it rewards these freak moments where, you know, loads of people crash at the front and then some team capitalises. It doesn't reward, actually, the team who deserves it more. Really, I don't think so. Right? If you have one freak performance where like Ocon can win a race in an Alpine or whatever, right? But the rest of the season you trash, yet you finish 3-4 places higher than a team that's been more consistent. I think if a more consistent team deserves more to be rewarded more. And you're still rewarding those freak occurrences, but it's just you're giving a more representative outcome. Surely that's the point, right? To have like a driver's championship or a constructor's championship, the point of giving points is that it represents who did best and to who did worst. That surely is the point, isn't it? Right? If you've done the best, you should be rewarded with the most points and therefore win. So, if you give everyone points, then surely that is a more equitable system and a fair system, but also more exciting because everyone's fighting for every position, because every position matters. Does Logie... Well, maybe give no points for who finishes last. I'm just saying, like, or give one, like, it's all relative, isn't it? That's what I mean. It's relative. And right now, you've got all these teams at the back who, because they're such an established top four, you know, it could take a couple of DNFs and all of a sudden you're bagging like loads of points where you've not like earned them in the same way that over the course of a whole season, if everyone gets points, for example, like in IndyCar, you get a more representative final drivers' championship than you do in F1. You objectively do. So it means people might stay out when they shouldn't. What do you mean when they shouldn't though, Olivia? Because like, obviously if they shouldn't for safety reasons, then, well, they'll get meatball flagged or they'll get like black flagged or whatever. But if it's points for everyone, then I just think that's a more representative. Like that's the whole point as far as I'm concerned. To actually, you know, whoever wins, whoever's fourth, whoever's ninth, right? They're there because they were the ninth best or the fourth best or the first best. But there you go. Anyway, people don't like change, so I get it. McLaren. Oh, but more about Haas? Not much more to say about Haas. McLaren. Okay, right, here we go. Let's do another poll. Do you feel like Lando bottled the win? Because he certainly thinks he did. Yes, no, or on the fence. I'll give you three options. Do you feel like Lando bottled the win? So obviously put it on poll. Gets a all right start, not quite as good as Max. And that's the thing. If Lando can shut that door on Max, which he did try, if he can shut that door, then he's ahead of Max. Still behind George, but looking at the pace, he probably goes on to win that race. Even with George getting ahead of both of them, being ahead of Max at that point and not allowing Max to open up the gap that he did at that stage of the race, Lando, given the pace, probably wins that race. It's fine margins. Max was just, when Lando closed the door, he just got in his nose in, that's exactly what Max needed to do. And I think that's the biggest factor that determined the outcome of the race. Obviously, there's so many other, Lando had a bit of a slow pit stop. Max actually had quite a slow pit stop, I remember. I feel like I'm sure Max had quite a slow. I'm sure he had like a 3-second pit stop, which by Red Bull standards is terrible. So 51% of you think yes, 17 no, 32% of you on the fence. Yeah, the big bottle was unable to get past George. Yeah, and look, obviously Max dispatched George very quickly, because that's the thing. Even losing that position to Max, Lando, if he'd have followed Max through past George, then, it also could have played out quite differently. Max had a 1.9 and a 3.0. I know Max had one slow pit stop, but he also had a 1.9. Yeah, because I swear. Oh, what two teams was it? I remember a Red Bull and an Alpine coming in, and the Red Bull did like a 3 second, and the Alpine did like a 2.1, and I was like, what the hell was this? It's the opposite. So, look, Lando believes he had the package to win. I believe he had the package to win as well. I think he had the best car on the day. I think it's easy to say should have won, but Max Verstappen is your competitor. Like, Max didn't put a foot wrong. He didn't make a mistake, and even with the pressure of Lando, slowly reading him in at the end, did he? He will look back on this one. Well, you saw his reaction after the race. He wasn't even happy. He was just disappointed to not win the race. And you know what? That's the mentality you want to see, really. I know Zach Brown afterwards was like, "Oh, I've got to be happy because we got a podium and and a points finish for the other car. But it's like, obviously he's got to appease the team, right? That's his job. But I think Lando's mentality now is like, I've had my time in this McLaren being down the field. Now I've got a car to win. If I don't take every opportunity that's presented to me, then I'm going to be disappointed with myself. We know how hard he is on himself anyway. And it's certainly, if someone's going to speak negatively, you would much rather it's much more palatable to see them be negative towards themselves. Like I'm someone I'm very hard on myself. I kind of empathise with that feeling a lot. And then it would be, if Lando was like effing and blinding at the team and being really negative about the team, letting him down or whatever. Because I think, they did give him the car to win, a car good enough to win, and he did not take that opportunity. He still got a P2, still drove a good, I think outside of that first stint, he drove a very good race. Could he have pushed more on that soft at the start to get past George? Burn through his tyre a bit more, which would have then had a knock-on effect. But did he play the long game a bit too much at the start? Maybe. But then, Max is great on his tyres. It's one thing for Lando to catch. It's another thing for Lando to pass Max. You need to be so close. You need to be within like half a second coming out of that final corner, really, to get a move done. So, I do understand why McLaren decided, like, right, we're behind Max now. The only way we're going to overtake him for the win is to give Lando a tyre offset, so that if he can catch Max, he's not just going to sit behind Max in P2. He's actually got a chance to overtake and get the job done. And I think they would have, I think if Lando did have the tyres, they would have gone wheel to wheel, and I think it would have been a really good scrap. I mean, that Lando and George scrap was quality. They gave each other racing room. No one was running each other off the track. That is exactly what I want to see more often. And I think far too often, and you can argue that certain precedents been set over recent years where, if I'm ahead at the apex, I can just force the other driver off. Blah blah blah. All this nonsense. Like, look at what I remember. Alonso and Russell, when Russell was Williams and Alonso was at Alpine, they were scrapping at Austria. Gave each other racing room, no pushing each other off. Like, we saw that from Lando and George. Like, there's good quality racing that it's still there. It's just, unfortunately, over recent years, I don't think we've seen it enough. But yeah, the poll, 50% of you think he bottled it, basically. Which, it's just that the start wasn't even bad. It was just not quite as good as Max's. It wasn't like a bad start. But as soon as Max gets his nose up the inside, it's pretty. I think as soon as Max gets his nose up the inside, it's game, set, and match, really. That's the way I see it. Clinton, thank you for the super chat. Oh, Clinton's got a point scoring system here. Whew, right. Top 15 with 50, 35, 26, 20, 16, 13, 11, 9, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, those gaps. I don't hate those gaps. There's a 15-point gap between P1, P2, and then a 9-point gap between P2, P3. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, look, that's what I'm saying. I think giving everyone points would make the championship standings more representative. I think that's a fact. I don't see how you can argue that specific point. It would make it more representative of what has actually happened over the course of the year, rather than, always getting P11 like Nico Hülkenberg does and getting zero reward for it. So, but there we go. All right, yeah. So McLaren could have done a bit better. Yeah, could have won the race, but didn't win the race because Max and Red Bull were on it and capitalised on the opportunity that Lando and McLaren presented them with, I guess. Mercedes, well done, Mercedes. George Russell's start. Was anyone else like? I could not believe it. I was not looking at the Mercedes. I was just looking at Lando and Max, and then George Russell. Through goes Russell. No, it doesn't quite hit like through goes Hamilton, does it? Crofty did well there, but that was one hell of a first lap. I loved it. What a vibe. I was not expecting it. I was like, oh my God, George, what have you done? What have you done? Thank you, Anthony, for the super chat. Just want to send some app Appreciation to the goat. Thank you. Very kind of you, Anthony. Yeah, that was an unreal start. He got like the double slipstream, just chucked it. He also, because Lewis kind of bogged down as well, because Lewis didn't have a great start. I think Lewis had a bad start because he was getting swallowed up by the Ferraris, and that helps George because obviously George got a double slipstream, but then because Lewis wasn't there on the left because he'd had a bad start, George could just go, right, I'm taking that position, on the outside. So very good from George Russell. See, we had a little moment. You know what? I got to say, when George and Lewis are close on track, I love it. I'm like, fight. I love it. But the move that Lewis got done on George was actually pretty clean. It was pretty clean. They gave each other racing room. It was clean. But yeah, there's something about them two scrapping that I enjoy, especially as teammates because it's a Mercedes civil war. It's quite funny. But yeah, all in all, very good weekend for Mercedes. Good step forward. Good podium for Lewis. And do I think if Lewis was in George's position, he would have made better of it? I do. I still, I think Lewis is the more complete driver in the race, for sure. Even though in one lap pace, I think George is at least as quick. He's probably quicker than Lewis over a lap. I think George is exceptional over a lap. He's Mr. Saturday for a reason, remember? But I think Lewis is better in race, and I think he wouldn't have been so, like, if he'd have been in George's position. But then he bottled the start. Lewis did bottle the start, and George nailed it. So that also, you have to give credit where credit is due. And also, it's put all the, right, I don't actually know. You know this email, right, that went out, that Toto was talking about? Is it, like, public? Has the email been, like, shared around? Is it, like, on Twitter or something? Has anyone actually seen the email? Genuine question, chat. Has the email been doing the rounds at all? Because I've not seen it on Twitter or anything. And obviously, Toto's been talking about it, saying getting the police involved. Wow, is it not? Is it actually not leaked? I'm surprised. I am actually surprised. One of Akila thinks it has leaked. So but most of you are saying no. Interesting. Well, so the email, I have seen the email. I have seen the email, but I'm not going to be the person to leak it to the world. But what I can tell you with absolute confidence, and there is absolutely no way that has come from someone who works at Mercedes. The way it's written, there's absolutely no way it's come from someone at Mercedes. But yeah, it's it's so funny because what was it? I remember seeing the race. Lewis had what was it? One of them had George had a bad pit stop because I think George pitted first, and then Lewis had a much better pit stop, and straight away I was thinking how are the conspiracy theories gonna how are they gonna explain that one? And obviously Lewis passed George and got on the podium, and George didn't, and I was like, how are they gonna explain that one, bro? It's honestly, it's so. It's so embarrassing. It really it's really bad. It is as cringe as you can imagine it is, right? But yeah, it's funny. It is funny. It is very funny. But either way, good day for Mercedes. So crack on indeed. What email? Basically, the email is making out that there is is making out it's from a team member claiming that Mercedes are sabotaging Lewis Hamilton, and that there is a vendetta within. But it's something straight out of F1 Twitter. Honestly, it's hilariously bad. So yeah, it's you know what? I'm actually surprised it got any mention this weekend because it's just that uncredible. But then Toto was asked and Toto was out and we get the police involved. So there you go. Right, racing bulls. Wow, yeah, not good. Bad weekend for Yuki. Bad weekend for. I mean, Ricardo drove better than Yuki. It seemed like in the race. Yuki did outqualify Daniel though. But yeah, worrying when you're bringing changes to the car and it's not improving performance because we saw that a lot from Aston Martin last year. Now again, maybe this is a one-off, but it feels like Catalunya is, one of these tracks that it has a bit of everything. So if you're really struggling around here, then that doesn't bode particularly well for the future. But time will tell. Time will tell. Not much more to say on these two though, because they were miles back and there's not really huge amount to go into with the bulls that race. As for Red Bull, yeah, again, I think Max made the difference this weekend. I think Red Bull did put Checo in a bad position by obviously getting him that 3-place grid drop, which was on the team for sure. But then obviously Checo gave Max a slipstream. Still wasn't enough to beat Lando in quali though. But yeah, I think that the lack of performance from Checo in the race was very, very finishing almost a minute behind Max. And again, like 26 seconds behind Oscar Piastri, who also had a stinker qualifying. Not good. Like, I don't know. Checo obviously was getting defended by Christian at the end. And obviously we know that Christian's the reason why Checo's still at that team. I mean, we don't know that, but I'm pretty certain in that statement that Christian is the factor that keeps Checo in that team. And hopefully it's better in Silverstone and Austria. But I don't expect it to be. Got to go Tesco, Avkid. Nice. I might get a meal deal after this actually as well. Not much more to say. I've said it all before about Checo, and unless things change, then it's just going to be the same again each weekend, isn't it? I don't know. Now that everyone's caught up, I just don't see it changing anytime soon. But yeah, Max, well done. Great job from Max Verstappen. Credit where credit is due to Super Max, because he's still the best driver in F1. That's pretty clear. In my estimation. Sauber, better. Joe finished ahead of Bottas. They were on different strategies. Like you corrected me earlier, Bottas did a soft, hard, which was a weird one. Because most people did soft, medium, soft. Or soft, medium, hard. But yeah, Sauber. No upgrades, but Joe 13th, Bottas 15th. Joe ahead of Aston Martin. Bottas would have been at least in 13th or better if he'd have been on the same strategy as Joe. Well done. Not got much more to say. Let's move on to Williams, which were terrible as well. Yeah, bad weekend for Williams. They weren't expecting much around here. They've got an overweight car with a lack of fundamental downforce, but yeah, Alex had his issues. Logan was nowhere in quali and finished last in the race. Just bad weekend all round. On to the next, really, which, I mean, won't do give Carlos Sainz it's a bad time for it with Carlos, weighing up between Williams and Sauber. There's not much in it. Realistically, right now, there's not much in it. Carlos's decision as to whether he goes here or here depends on whether he believes in one project more than another on a more long-term basis beyond, from 2025 and more so beyond. Because, Vowles has talked about this, all focus is really on 2026 as far as he's concerned. Audi coming in, a lot of unknowns around that. Actually, you know what? Let's drop another poll. If you were Carlos Sainz, who would you pick? I think he does want to go to Mercedes, Liam. I just think that's not an opportunity because I think Kimi Antonelli is going to Mercedes. I don't think it's a sake of Carlos not wanting that. I don't think that offer's on the table. I could be wrong. I don't think that offer's on the table for him. I think he would he take a 1-year deal at Mercedes over Williams or Sauber? Taking a 1-year deal at Mercedes makes it easier to, but then he's going against Georgia. I don't know. We don't know. That's a long drawn out way of saying I don't know. Thank you, Subdeep, for the super chat. Hi, Tom. You think if Alonso or Lewis was driving that McLaren, Max wouldn't have won the race, and this is the Lando guy missing that killer instinct. Well, easy to say that. Like, all right, so Lewis had a bad start. Lewis had a worse start than Lando. Now, do I think Lewis or Lando in that McLaren being behind Max into turn 1 would have not only caught up to Max but passed Max to win? I don't. Even if Lando had cleared George Russell quickly, I don't think Lando wins that race. Because I think Lando maybe catches Max and is in his DRS and is having a sniff up the inside a few times, but I don't think he's passing Max. And Lewis has bad starts, Fernando has bad starts. I don't think that would have made a massive difference. I think Lando's tyre preservation is exceptional. I think he cleared the traffic pretty much as quickly as Fernando or Lewis would have as well. I actually don't think. I think it was a bad start that then Max drove such a good race. I don't think, even with Fernando or Lewis in that car, if Max leads into turn 1, I don't think Fernando passes Max in the McLaren. I don't think Lewis passes Max in the McLaren. That's my take. That is my take. I am fully ignoring Alpine as an option. Yeah, because I don't think that is an option, Ray. I don't believe that is an option that he's seriously considering. I think it is a straight Williams versus Sauber. From everything I've heard, everything I've seen, it is a straight fight between the two. If you were Carlos Sainz, who would you pick? It's an interesting split. 60% of you Williams, 40% of you Sauber, basically. I think he'll pick... I don't know. I think he'll pick... I don't... So if I was him, I would pick Williams. Because Alex Albon... No, I'm joking. I would actually pick Williams if I was him. But what do I think he's actually going to pick? I think he'll pick Williams. I think he'll pick Williams. That is my opinion. That is my opinion. That's what I think. And 60% of you would pick Williams if you were Carlos Sainz as well. There you go. Interesting. Right. Thank you, Anthony, for the super chat. How excited are you personally for a Williams lineup of Albon Sainz for 25 if the rumours are true? Yeah, look, I think that, first of all, Williams is a team that, you know I love like a Phoenix from the Ashes story, right? Part of the reason why my support for Alex has only increased over time is that he had that really difficult time at Red Bull and he had that year out and now he's come back and he's rebuilt his career. There's something very human, very likeable about that. I liked him before, anyway, but that's only more so. And I think seeing Pierre do the same as well, Pierre, I still like Pierre. He used to be one of my favourite drivers. I think just now there's other drivers that I just gravitate towards a bit more. But Pierre used to be like one of my favourites, and I think that was kind of when he got that P2 at Toro Rosso in Brazil. That was such a vibe. Like seeing someone like get battered down and then like return and like come back. I love that. So, and that applies to teams as well. And again, I've always had a soft spot for Alpine because it's like they're just always underachieving. I just want to see him do well. And Williams, obviously, the historic name. So that I like Williams as a team. I really do. And I think I've got a lot of time for James Vowles. I think he's not only very articulate, but I think he's prepared to make those tough decisions. And like, I think he goes about it in a very good and a very like humane way. No one's perfect, right? But I think all in all, he represents himself and the team very well. Obviously, I love Alex, goes without saying. And then Carlos, yeah, I mean, his team radios are funny, for one. I think that, he loves a moan on the team radio. I think most of the time it's just quite funny. No, Ricky, no. So it's just, it's just funny. But I do, yeah, I got a lot of time for Carlos, actually. I do really like him as again, not perfect. Sometimes his whining is a bit much, but like all in all, I do like Carlos a lot, and I think that's a really exciting lineup for that team. I would also like to see, if not Carlos, I would love to see Liam Lawson re-link up with Albon like they were in DTM. And I think that would be a really exciting lineup for Williams going forward, because I think Lawson's got a lot to show. And I think he's already proven himself that he can actually do it in F1. Because again, like you look at a junior career and you know, in many ways, you could look at Logan Sargent's junior career and put that as at least as impressive, if not more impressive than Liam Lawson's. But in F1 machinery, Lawson has proven he can do it. He's literally proven he can do it. Out the bat, not far off Tsunoda, at least in terms of race pace. And Yuki was given a lot of time. Liam's got that 5 races and isn't getting a seat. I think that would be a really, if not science, then I think Lawson is probably what I'd go for if I was James Vowles. But we'll see about that. Again, watch my video on Liam Lawson if you haven't already. I talk all about why maybe actually doing another season of reserve is his best chance of getting into F1. Because I actually maybe think that is the case now. Unless James Vowles picks him up. If science goes to... But then, if science goes... Because then I'm like, all right, if science goes to Audi, but then Bottas, Lawson as well. So there's a lot to be said for Bottas to Williams. I think there's a lot to be said for that. Because he's reliable. He's a known entity. He was very good at that team when he used to be there. I would like to see Lawson, though, get a shot. If that meant science, because then Bottas... But then Bottas deserves a seat. That's the thing. Bottas does deserve a seat. So, difficult one to choose. Right, we've been going live for 1 hour 34 minutes. Damn. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being here with me live. Max, Emily, Halita, Awkward, Dominic, Surf Sauce, Unwanted Wolf, Tommy, Samuel, Max, Yusuf, Christopher, Patrick, Lafloof, Bryce, Hop Hayes, Jack, Samuel, Stella, Joseph, username, I'm reading it again, Christopher, Abby, Liam, McFinnan, Mark. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for listening, watching, supporting what I do wherever you are in the world. I couldn't do this dream job without all your support. So thank you. Honestly, it does mean the world to me. I'll never be able to thank you all independently, but I really do appreciate it. Thank you, Jamie, as well for the super chat. Solution, add 2 more teams. That'd be lovely. I'm going to give that one a like, Jamie, because... Oh, I can't like it. Other people can like it, but I can't like it. There you go. Thanks again. Ciao, adios. I'm done. New video. Probably tomorrow. That's the aim. New video tomorrow. But go and watch my Liam Lawson video if you haven't already. All right? Go onto my channel, watch my Liam Lawson video. Give that some love. And I will see you tomorrow for a new video. And then... Actually, I'm out all day Wednesday, so I'll probably do my pre-race Chinwag for the next Grand Prix this weekend on Thursday. So, pre-race Chinwag Thursday, new video tomorrow. The content keeps on going, alright? Thanks, everyone. Ciao, adios, I'm done. Goodbye. So long, farewell. As Vida saying goodbye. Bye.